Hi guys, welcome back. Well, this is an update video while I was coloring, and I need to vent. It's so weird that I don't like to talk about it in private, but I don't mind. It's kind of cathartic to talk about what's going on out loud where I could just talk into the void and scream. And believe me, it helps for me. Yesterday was it was started the day before yesterday because, time wise, but it was only about 24 to 48 hours ago. It was horrible. My daughter, my middle daughter, goes to visit my husband, who's in the intensive care unit, every day in the morning. And then she goes to work in the afternoon, and my middle daughter gets off of work and goes, and then in the evenings I go. Well, my daughter, my middle one was there, and I get a phone call. I had just gone to sleep. It's like no sleep at all. And she's hysterical. Well, the day before this, it was brought up that they wanted to put my husband under palliative care, which is different than hospice. Hospice is end of life. Palliative is supposed to be when you have a chronic illness. What they do is help you manage it. My husband has heart disease. He has kidney failure. It made sense. Well, it was that morning, my daughter was sitting with my husband. He was awake, and they came around and did rounds. And this doctor, who had never seen my husband before, has no rapport with the family, walked into the room and started telling my husband how he has 3 to 6 months to live. And all this doom and gloom information while I wasn't there. And there's my daughter, who knows nothing about the medical field, doesn't understand the words that they use, was listening with no support, virtually no support from her mom, to this doctor. Well, the nurse, and I'm going to call her Nurse Ratchet, and then I'm going to change my views on her. The end of the story is going to get really wild. This nurse came in and took my daughter aside and made it 10 times worse. Saying to my daughter things like, you just have to accept the fact your father's going to die. And all these things she was not ready to hear and not in the frame of mind to be told. This nurse did not judge the situation correctly. My daughter was, when you're given these type of things, you need to be talked to softly. You need to have, your words are going to be remembered. And at this point, my daughter's feet were out from under her. They took my daughter out of the room and they sat her down at the nurse's desk, and they went from worse to worse. So I get this phone call, and my daughter is completely hysterical. Get down to the hospital now. God knows what was going on. So I get up, I get into the shower, because she said, I was like, is your father coding or something again? Or is something? No, the doctor came in and she was just hysterical. And I knew it was like more of an emotional problem than a physical problem with my husband. So I dared to take a shower. Well, in the middle of my shower, I get a second phone call. I literally have shampoo in my hair. I get a second phone call, and it's my daughter, and I get running out of the shower, shampoo in hair, to answer the phone. And she's, get here now, now. Okay. I didn't even get back into the shower. I still have shampoo in my hair. Stick my hair in a messy bun with the shampoo, and I go running out, get dressed, run down to the hospital. I think I ran every red light on the way down there. Zoom into the hospital, and he's sitting in bed and he's staring off into the space, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Well, they would not allow me and my daughter to see each other. Only one person allowed. We had a pass in the hall. So I had a choice of being with my husband. My family now is in complete crisis, complete meltdown crisis. And they want my daughter to stand downstairs in the lobby while I stay with my husband, who is now in crisis, or support my child, who is down by herself in the lobby. Hysterical crying, by the way. I begged them, please let the family be together. Please. They said no. Which to me is, there's regulations, and you're lucky that we let you up on the floor as it is. You're the only people that have visitation rights. There's too much COVID. I understand that. We've complied with every time they have said we couldn't visit. We have complied. We've done everything. I was at a boiling point at this time because my family was in total meltdown crisis. Well, I finally get to the bottom of things, and it turned out it was this doctor who came in with test results and this, and yes, his test results were not good. I understand that. But when you put a family into complete and utter ununderstanding, and you are judging a man in a bed who doesn't understand at this point either, and you don't have a report. It's not like he was the family doctor. We had never seen this man before. He had never met my husband before. He just walked into the room and said, hi, you have 3 to 6 months to live. Okay. Well, I went back up on the floor. I calmed my daughter down. I was like, these are not his doctors. They do not know him. They don't even realize he's been living with this for 20 years. Yeah, having heart disease and kidney disease is together is a death sentence in itself. But my husband has had the same thing for 20 years. Now, what it turned out to be is on his echo, they did a cardiac echo, and he's leaking on 2 valves. We knew he had a slight leak in one, but it was minor, and his regular doctor just said, we just had this. My regular doctor just told us about the leak at a meeting a couple weeks before he had gotten sick. I could tell you that his regular doctor wasn't as much concerned with the leak. He was like, yeah, down the line, we could always tighten up the valve. Well, apparently, because of all the fluids that have been on him, he's springing leaks. I mean, if you understood how swollen his body has been with fluids. And yeah, there is a possibility my husband will die from this. But what happened with him with this doctor was insane. So, I calmed my daughter down. I'm like, do not listen to people who don't know your father, don't know the situation. And even if they do know something we don't know, this was not how to handle it. It's not. There are some doctors that have no bedside manner. And we're going to add in Nurse Ratchet, who really made things worse by a long shot. So I calmed my daughter down. I got her something to drink, something to eat, and I sent her home. The best place for her, because she also has a seizure disorder, And I was afraid she was going to just have a seizure right in the hallway. So she goes home, and I go to, and she's calm at this point. I didn't send an hysterical girl home who couldn't drive. She was calm at this point after talking to me and being with her mama. Well, I went up and I was with my husband, and I was seething. There was fire coming out of my eyeballs in the most New York seething way. And if you've ever seen a New Yorker get mad, I felt the fire coming out of my eyes. And I waited for the nurse to come in. When I had gone up to the floor the first time, I had gone right to the nurse's station because I walked into the room and my husband's heart rate was over 200. And he doesn't usually run that. I was like, can I get a nurse? Like, where is the nurse? I asked for a nurse 5 fucking times. 5. In an ICU. Screaming his heart rate is over 200. And on the 5th time, the woman who I was begging, literally begging to come into the room, finally identifies herself as his nurse, waddles into the room, sits down with us and says, well, his heart rate's been running like that. We already know. Excuse me, I don't know. Well, we got him situated and got his heart rate down, and I sat with my husband, and I watched the clock. And we didn't see her for 3 full hours. We called for a nurse for various things. This is an intensive care unit, and the nurse disappeared for 3 hours. And mind you, you might say, well, they're watching the monitor because he's on telemetry. They had come in and done some tests where they removed the telemetry. She did not even see his heartbeat for 3 full hours. And I started documenting it with my phone. And I was in the room watching him because that's the only reason that I didn't completely lose myself. And when the nurse came in, I calmly looked at her and from under my mask, and I guess the mask could not hide the fire that was in my eyes. I asked her, what's his I&O? And she was like, oh, well, we didn't tally it. You didn't tally it because he doesn't have one. And I was like, take his blood pressure yet lately? Oh, we're monitoring him. Really? I have 3 hours of video where he's off his monitor. No, you have not been monitoring him. I don't know what you're going to put in the nurse's notes, because if you put anything down, that you knew what his heart rate was, or you knew that his blood pressure was at a certain point, I'm going to throw a fit. And she knew I was going to go straight to the nighttime supervisor. And because I wasn't going to deal with the daytime supervisor. This was not the time. The nighttime supervisor. That'll trickle down. Well, after I calmed down for a while and she left and came back, she apologized. And she literally broke down. She knew she handled it wrong. She said, I guess she just became a nurse, like a human, like a person. They had given her 4 ICU patients. 4. Okay? That's almost unheard of on a daytime shift. And they have no help. They don't have aides in the ICU unit who can come in and make sure something was, a monitor was right. They don't have anything like that. It's your nurse and you. And that's all they got. And they gave her 4 full load patients. And suddenly, I felt her pain. And I know that I'm watching out for my own husband, but I understood the situation that they put her in. That floor is so full. And every time I go there, I look, and there's a different patient on a ventilator, and they're all on ventilators. And the nurse said to me, "You're about the only person who's allowed to be up here. And that's why we're so strict." And she goes, "In a normal situation, I know all about family needing support. Family support is so, and we failed you today." And she was almost crying. And I felt bad for the situation. Well, later on in the evening, it was past her 12 hours, and I was still at the hospital. So I know she had been there more than 12 hours. My husband had a new nurse who my husband wanted to get washed up for bed. And my husband's full, like, he's a man. He's not a small man. And one nurse can't. So they got a new nurse to help get him up out of the chair and into the bed, just for safety reasons. And another nurse who was about 6'4", well over 250 pounds, huge guy, and I felt really good that they had him there, whose first time out of nursing school was that night. His very first time. Well, this nurse that they brought in, didn't have any information on my husband. And they put him where he was dangling his feet at the edge of the bed, and they wanted him to lie down. So they put the head of the bed down, and I said, "You can't put the head of the bed down." He coded twice when they did that. You can't, his heart. And starts to argue with me that there's no sign up on the wall saying she can't lay him back. And proceeded to start to lay him back. I screamed. And I mean, you could have heard me from across the hospital. I screamed my head off. "Get away from him. Don't you dare do it." My husband screamed. And my husband doesn't scream. My husband screamed, "Get away from me. Don't." We had literally, I was going to get physical with this nurse who did not know my husband, was not his nurse. I was going to get physical protecting my husband because 2 other times he coded when he was lied down. He can't breathe when he's laying down. He has to be sitting up at all times. And I busted out of the room, and I went to get help from anybody that was out in the hallway to get this woman and this man away from my husband. And the nurse that had him all day was sitting at the desk, still writing notes. And she came in to my rescue and stopped them and calmed the situation down. I was like, suddenly I was not angry at her anymore because she had to explain to this idiot nurse he needs his feet dangling on the floor and he needs his head up. He's coded. He's gonna die if you do that. So his regular nurse walks into the room and she was like, "What the fuck just happened?" And I stayed and the 2 other nurses left. We got him into the bed. We got him comfortable. And the nurse that was with him all day and is on at least 13 hours now volunteered to stay. She's like, "Can I stay a little while?" When the nurse at the night shift said, "No, you don't have to." And the nurse was very nice. That was his nurse. Thank God. And they told me I had to leave. It was past visiting hours, and I complied with it. So today I came in, and the nurse that was the day before, Nurse Ratchet, that saved his ass at night, was his nurse again today, and I felt so much better. I found her sitting at his bedside, watching over him, and I felt a lot more secure. But it's been horrible. And that's my update and why I needed to vent. People, you do not want to end up in an ICU right now. This is what you have to look forward to. My husband is one of the only people who do not have COVID. And every nurse that has come in to be with me and my husband has on the sly told us nobody was vaccinated. They're all COVID patients that didn't listen. And again, I'm going to say, be vaccinated. It's your life. Get your family vaccinated. If anything, you can still get COVID, but you'll be at home, breathing. You do not want to be on a COVID floor. You just don't. And with that, I am vented. I am art therapied, and I might be able to sleep tonight. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.